The union movement today is at a crossroads. Is it going to go over a cliff, become irrelevant to people in this country, become irrelevant in terms of having power, or is it going to be turned around? We believe that to achieve a progressive majority in this country, it will take a strong labor movement to resource it and to lead it. And the only way that's going to happen is if workers are empowered and that labor movement is built from the bottom up. Currently, it's largely top-down, where decisions are made for workers by a few in Washington, D.C., or a few that lead national unions, and consequently, workers don't have interest in putting time and energy into their union. I'm reminded of a story that Jesse Jackson often told at some of our rallies, that he talks about Dr. King in the early 60s. After he helped elect Lyndon Johnson president, he went to the White House and said, okay, now it's time to give people our right to vote. And President Johnson said, I don't have the power to do that. You have to go to Congress. So Dr. King went to Congress and said, time to give our folks the right to vote. And they said, we don't have the power to do that. So what he did was form a deep bottom-up coalition with the labor movement, women's rights movement, and from the bottom up forced Congress to pass civil rights legislation. Well, I think the same thing has to happen today. We have to force our federal government to labor law reform, to accomplish labor law reform that empowers workers, not institution unions. It's not a law that workers have the right to vote on their contract, for example. It's not guaranteed by law that workers have the right to vote for all of their leaders in a union, including on the shop floor, or that workers have the right to vote on dues increases. Unions can get around that. So we think that labor law reform is fundamentally important, that empowers working people to control their relationship with their employer and control their union. We have a saying in our union, when it comes to politicians, we have no permanent friends and no permanent enemies. We just have permanent issues. And when it comes to politics, we've found that fundamentally important is empowering workers to make all decisions in their union about how their dollars are spent on politics, on who gets endorsed, on what issues get supported. So it's those votes, right? The power to make those decisions is what motivates people to be involved. Generally speaking, I think the labor movement today is a teller machine to write checks to politicians in this country, and that's not the solution, because we'll never be able to compete with the corporations in this country when it comes to buying votes or buying influence in government. So currently the state affairs and the government's role or lack of support for working people is outrageous and needs to be turned around. And we don't see the past practices of organized labor, big labor, doing that successfully over the years. So again, fundamentally important is the empowerment of working people from the bottom up to take control of their union.